very excited to sit down with Vistar Media CEO and co-founder Michael Provenzano to hear his perspective on the state of the industry, the T-Mobile acquisition, and what's next for retail media. Please welcome Michael to the stage. All right. So we've spent a lot of time as an industry. I'm just going to get this question out of the way because we just talked about measurement, and it's been a huge conversation here at this conference. We talk about measurements, impressions, standards, and how the industry needs to move forward. So just want to get it out of the way, as I said, and I know you have a point of view on it. What are your thoughts?
Thoughts on measurement. Well, I guess let's step back because there's probably a lot of conversations going on around it. There's the impression side of it. I know it's a hot topic. Geopath conversations earlier. I think the way we think about it a lot is measurement in terms of outcomes and ROI to the client. At the end of the day, I've been running this business for 13 and a half years, and what matters most is that the brand at the end of the day is happy with the investment, happy where their dollars are going, and they are actually seeing some form of end results. So when we think about measurement, we think a lot about that ROI piece, and I've been pretty obsessed with it. Not to discount, there's definitely an opportunity to improve the quality of how we do impressions, and there should be work done there as well. So I'm supportive of that. Not my fight.
No. And with that, and speaking of opportunity, I want to start with the big news. T-Mobile acquisition of Vistar. It's huge.
Exciting.
What do you think that, obviously means a lot to you, to the company, but also what do you think that signaled to the industry and why it's such a significant moment for all of us here?
Yeah. Look, I think it's a moment in time where one of the largest brands in the US and in the world has basically said out-of-home is a super important channel to us. You put $500 million to work to tell everyone that, it means a lot. And I think for all of us in the room, it's almost like a challenging aspect to a lot of our other brand clients. Well, if one of the largest brands in the world thinks out-of-home is the channel for them to be investing in and differentiating themselves in, what does that mean for all the other brands out there? Should they be stepping up in a bigger way as brands in the out-of-home channel? So I think it's a unique opportunity. I know my sales team's taking advantage of that moment and that time, and I would encourage most of our other partners and media owners to leverage that same moment in time to say, hey, look what T-Mobile's doing in this space. Why aren't you guys stepping up as well?
Well, it is really, really big news for the industry, and there's a lot of excitement around it for sure. And I think it's gonna mean that we can propel even faster forward, having such a big brand now present where we are. But we were actually joking before about you wearing a pink cowboy hat next year, so we're all hoping for that. T-Mobile is very known for having a big and bold brand presence, especially through its retail footprint. I think we forget, a lot of us, that T-Mobile, we think of it as an operator, but lots of stores, lots of touch points with consumers. How is the brand rethinking its physical presence, and how does out-of-home fit in that strategy?
Yeah, it's actually really exciting. It's one of the big synergies of the deal is their retail media focus. As Anna said, a lot of people forget, I think they have 10,000 stores across the brands that they own, right? They own T-Mobile, they own Metro, and this physical store presence is a huge part of most of their sales. So they really are a classic retailer in that sense. We have been working with them for years, so probably most of you know in the room, right? We have a DSP business, SSP business, ad serving, and our signage software Cortex. So we actually worked with T-Mobile across all of those products, and specifically in their in-store side of their business, we were powering the screens and the ad serving of those stores. And so they were basically one of the early in-store retail media networks for us. And the success they've had with their endemic brands, Google, Samsung, Apple, being able to take that in-store opportunity to them has been monumental for their business. So, and the synergy between our companies is now we get to take kind of the Vistar software side of things, their experience in running in-store networks, and go take that to all the other retailers that are out there. It's really exciting. It's basically like having a power sandbox blueprint for where to take the future of in-store retail media.
And store or no store, you've said before that out-of-home can serve as kind of a physical front door when a brand doesn't have a store. Can you unpack that concept and what does it actually look like in practice or for T-Mobile or other forward-looking brands?
My sales team will give me some eye rolls on this one because it's like my little vision or hope that we could be able to push people on. But the basic idea is that most retailers, right, it's all physical world presence, right? If you're Starbucks, if you're T-Mobile, the idea of buying another store, investing in physical world real estate is pretty expensive, right, to build another store. Well, what is out of home? It's physical world real estate that you can temporarily be at. So if you imagine, it's like, here are all my store locations, well, there's space in between those. What could you fill those space with? You could have an omnichannel brand presence by being present and out of home as a temporary real estate vehicle. So finally, we get to force that idea forward with our T-Mobile friends, which is great.
Awesome. So I want to shift over to something that, well, you talk a lot about, and we talk a lot about at OAAA, and I think it's an ongoing conversation in this industry, and also when it comes to the evolution of programmatic and automation and things like that, quality of screens and the experiences on them. What does that mean in the context of out-of-home today, and why should media owners be prioritizing that? Do you think we need standards? How should we strive to show up in public spaces, and how should we define ourselves?
Yeah, should I watch what I say so I don't get assassinated up here? But there's a lot of conversations going on about venue types. So there's definitely an opportunity to clean up the venue type taxonomy on the standard side. I think one thing that's been clear over a lot of these years is, CapEx has gone down to put up more screens and invest in locations. But quality shouldn't go down with that. And I think that's really tempting as a lot of media owners, they'll get funding, they'll put up as many screens as they can because that's kind of what the investor wants. And my big thing is, think about yourself as a consumer. Would you rather have lots of different stores or a handful of super high quality stores to go visit? I think most consumers are gravitating more toward quality. So that's one thing I would kind of hope that media owners shift focus on is maybe less screens, more higher quality screens, especially as we roll out larger retail media opportunities. I'll steal from our head of enterprise software, Eric Lamb, who has a strong opinion about this. But if you're going to put screens into a store, like maybe just one really beautiful screen and that really is impactful, that's standard across everywhere we go, versus flooding a store in every aisle with different types of screens, different sizes. It might be too cumbersome and confusing.
Yeah. And on that, investing in the future and investing in screens and how we show up, how do you think we should be investing sort of future forward into hardware, software, and different systems?
Yeah, it's a pretty big pie out there of like how many ways you can invest as a media owner. I think there's still opportunities on the sensory side. It's been a conversation I think since we got in the industry 14 years ago. Is like, can you have Bluetooth beacons? Can you have Wi-Fi sensors? Can you get more data actually at the location? I think the answer is yes, and the answer is if you have the money to invest in it, you should do those things and try to push the future forward. But it's tough because if you're a media owner, you're also saying, well, what's going to make me money today? What do my brands actually care about? And most of the brands don't care about that future stuff because they don't know about it yet, right? It hasn't been scaled out. It hasn't been pitched in a larger ability. So it's a tough situation for a lot of media owners because they could be unique and have this special sauce of, maybe sales level data that they have access to. Like we have a few partners. They have amazing like SKU level sales data. You're like, oh my God, this is awesome. Why aren't you doing anything with it? It's like, we're too small for a brand to care. It's like, oh man, so I'm sitting here being like, well, I only can use this SKU data for one network and not all the networks. So it's interesting. You find yourself as a media owner, you see a lot of these opportunities where the struggle is real of like, where do they invest their time and money to see real ROI?
Yeah, it's tough, yeah. Thinking forward isn't always easy, and you never know what's around the corner, right?
Glad I'm not a media owner.
For sure. So retail media, I certainly, and I think we all talk a lot about it, and also kind of how we can put out of home in the omni-channel mix and make sure that we help other channels grow and also push back on data and things like that from them too. So the convergence between retail media and out of home, where do you see the real opportunity? You obviously know a lot about this now because you've been involved in this transaction. So the real opportunity and the real pitfalls in how we could collaborate and cooperate with retailers or retail media networks.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance, right? I think the retail media is a very sexy term right now, right? And a lot of the retail networks, they have an aversion to be kind of defined as out of home because they want to be new and sexy and all that stuff. But when we look at the business, especially in the way that we operate from a kind of a product first lens, like it's the same software, it's the same technology, it's the same way you would operate a large digital out of home network. So if I take one of our closest like place-based partners, like a Captivate, GST, or Zoom or something, and then I compare that to the way that T-Mobile, let's say, runs their retail stores, it's like there's a ton of similarities. So for us in this room, like that's an obvious opportunity. It's almost like we already know how to do this thing that's everyone's talking about, that's super new and exciting. But to most people in this room, it's like, yeah, we all can do that already today. So it's kind of playing to people's opinions a little bit, but also it's like, hey, we know how to do this. We actually are the professionals in the room, even though we don't come from the retail background. We come from an out-of-home perspective. It's the same problem set.
Yeah. No, there's certainly, it's also one to many for the most part, right?
Yeah.
At least from the screen perspective, right? So there's a lot of similarities, and it is a shiny object, but I think for us as an industry that needs to grow, it's good to kind of
Great for us.
stay with where the growth seems to be coming from.
Oh.
So this event here, I mentioned in my opening remarks, we actually avoided doing a standalone AI session this year because it feels like it's been done. We did it last year. It's talk of the town all the time. So instead, and it's now happening. Everyone uses it and probably had for a long time. So instead of asking every speaker, or instead of having a standalone session, we're asking every speaker how they feel about AI and what role it plays for them and in their company, and also kind of forward-looking how we'll use it. So can you talk to your perspective of that and broader automation?
Yeah, I'm probably more commercial these days in my life than I am more of a technologist than I used to be. Maybe I'll go back to my roots at some point. But yeah, I try to just ask the question, like, how can it help us in our current business day to day? I think there's probably a lot of opportunities on the OpEx side, right? You hear this all the time of like automating existing pipelines, automating existing ways of working. I think that's probably the low-hanging fruit. I know the creative industry's been, changed a lot from it. A lot of my buddies, they grew up in creative advertising, and I remember watching them stay up, all hours of the night building, 150 versions of a creative, so a client the next day could tell them these all suck. And it's like their life is so different now. They can, do a few prompts and get, thousands of ideas on the table within a few minutes. And so the iteration cycle for the creative side, AI has done some really cool stuff there, and I'm sure we'll see more changes for out of home around that as well.
Yeah. So you think creative is where it's going to sit, or do you think more broadly? If you think about, again, programmatic, automation, the areas where you're very active in.
Look, there's definitely areas where AI can add more efficiency, make better decisioning off of what we do today. I think it goes back to like, how can I show value to the client of that increased investment? Like we spend a bunch of money, let's say, on servers for processing all this stuff through an AI. Like, who pays that bill? It's like, I've got to show enough value to the client to be like, well, if you want this AI powered, you need to pay an extra 50 cents CPM, right? How do I show that value? And I think that's the unknown right now.
That's an interesting perspective, actually.
It's very commercial.
The cost of it. Yeah, but it's true, right? Like we think it's going to simplify everything and we're going to save so much money, but actually there's a cost to doing it too. And then there's a lot of risk.
Yeah.
Because it's not completely controlled.
Well, the dirty secret on the AI stuff is like now everyone's trying to find clean energy for data centers.
Yeah. Well,
expensive.
We're also not having a conversation about sustainability here, but that's a big one, right? Like
it's a huge one.
Not just financially, but also on the environment and other things, where we actually overperform, I would say, in out of home. We're very sustainable.
I agree.
All right. I'm going to close it out and ask you that if you had to place a bet for the next 12 to 24 months, where you are investing most heavily, is it either operationally or is it in terms of industry shifts?
We try to be a little bit flexible, right? I think do I dare say the word tariff today? But, what happens in the macro economy does affect what we prioritize as a business, right? If brands are not leaning in as much due to macro conditions, it is a great time to look back internally and just rewire stuff and focus on operating ability. But right now we haven't seen that yet, so it is about striving forward. We're super excited about retail media, as we talked about. We're very excited, obviously, with the T-Mobile partnership of starting to work with carrier-level data again. That data is super fascinating. They have access to these really amazing relationships with their customers. Their customers have consented into that data. So that for us is really exciting and a big priority for the business. And then, of course, we keep expanding internationally, as most of you know. We operate in 32 countries today. We've got a few new big bets coming up, and we'll continue to do that over the next few years. So.
Actually, maybe that's where I should close out on that, because I get that question a lot.
Oh, yeah?
So Vistar Media is a global company, and now you're being bought by a large American operator.
Yeah.
What is that? Are you going to keep the Vistar brand? Are you going to become T-Mobile? Or at least, again, 18 to 24 months.
Yeah.
What does it mean to your international business?
Sure. Yeah, a lot of the branding stuff is still works in progress. Today we operate completely independently and operate under our own brand, and for how long that continues, kind of TBD, right? In terms of international, that's a huge part of the overall value proposition for us. T-Mobile's majority owned by Deutsche Telekom as well, so they actually have more international focus than probably on the surface you would think. But no, they've been really supportive of our dreams and our willingness to keep on going across the globe. And they have a desire to build a massive ad platform. And so to be a massive ad platform, you need to operate outside of one country. And they know that. So that's been really supportive so far.
Well, first of all, huge congratulations to you and the entire Vistar team. Smaller, but still, huge congratulations to Lamar and to all of us for making this happen, and or not all of us for making it happen, but reaping the benefits of it, which I think we will.
We wouldn't be here without everyone in the room. I mean, we really built this business with everyone, so
and
thank you.
We're looking forward to seeing you here again next year, and we're counting on that pink cowboy hat. And by the way, which I will reveal later, cowboy hat might be appropriate for next year.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
All right, well, thank you so much, Michael. It's great having you here.
Appreciate it.